You were in about 6 months ago. We were chatting about progress you'd made in the country since you entered it in 2004. And of course, since you came in, I think it was in February, we have seen steady progress in car sales across the board in South Africa. How have you been seeing it? Are you also seeing a bit of progress from last year's poor levels?
Sure. Since January this year, we've seen excellent growth. We've seen about 80% growth in our retails as compared to last financial year or last calendar year, because last calendar year was really very bad. That was the lowest in the history of automotive sales during the last 10 years. So I would say for the first 6 months, the sales have been really very good.
Are you back to pre-crisis levels yet?
Not yet. We are almost at 2008 levels, but I think 2007 and 2006 were fantastic years. That was the time when the South African auto industry was about 800,000 vehicles.
And of course, there's some saying that it's going to take a long time to get back to those levels. But of course, you do come in with new models and you try and lure people to come over. So it's not just, it's new market share you're trying to capture here, isn't it?
Well, to your first question, whether the market is going to get back or whether the rate is going to be that fast, the projections so far have been quite low, quite conservative. NAMSA has already revised its projections for this calendar year already once, and so far we've seen more growth than the projections. So I'm sure the growth is going to be much more than what the projections are. And I would say in the next 3 years we would be back to those old levels. In terms of our business here, we have been in the last 2 years when the recession was on, we've focused a lot on consolidating our business here by infusing capital, by fully capitalizing the business, so it's become a 100% subsidiary here. We've also worked a lot on strengthening our network, expanding our network, working on the parts service front, and so that way we have become made Mahindra South Africa a more stronger machine to operate. During last year, we've also introduced many new models. The Xylo, which was a people mover, introduced in March. We introduced a refreshed Scorpio platform with all safety features. We also introduced a panel van on the Xylo platform. And recently, we have introduced a recreational vehicle, which is known as Thar. And so the new product introduction also goes. And hand in hand, I suppose, with the new products, the backup that and the peace of mind that the customer has, I think we have worked on all those fronts.
Because we are talking about tractors as well today. You're planning to bring some models of tractors into South Africa. Have you had tractors in South Africa before?
Yes. In the last 1.5 years or so, we've done a bit of test marketing with 4 of our models, and they have been very well received. I'm sure you know that we are the largest tractor manufacturer in the world in terms of sales volumes, and we would like to bring those successful products into this market because it's a big market here.
What's the competition like in the tractor market in South Africa? Because I should imagine it's quite stiff with some very established brands.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Typically John Deere or Ford New Holland, they are very strong in South Africa.
But you do think you can plough yourself a little space in this market?
Well, we'll have to work that out.
I mean, of course, you do assemble tractors around Africa. Would you look at assembling tractors in South Africa at some stage?
Well, it will all depend on the business, on the volumes, and we'll have to look at how the market picks up.
I mean, what sorts of volumes do you need to get, both in your vehicles and in your tractors, before you look at establishing an assembly plant?
Well, one step to move from importing fully built vehicles and get into a manufacturing kind of operation is to first look at how we can do a bit of and have some experience by doing a contract assembly. So we are first looking at tying up with a contract assembler for the automotive business once the volumes pick up. And once the volumes pick up, then possibly gradually we will look at investment. If you look at our 2 assembly locations in Brazil and Egypt, in Egypt specifically, we went in with a 45% local content, so which meant that there was a lot of work that was done, and we were assembling over 200 vehicles a month, which is small, but then it's fairly good for a contract assembler.
Do the government incentives make it worthwhile for auto manufacturers to set up assembly plants in countries like South Africa?
Yes, there are incentives. There are incentives which help.
And they make it worthwhile doing that. So that would be perhaps one of the catalysts to doing so.
Yeah, it's one of the catalysts, I would say.
Now, just looking at the growth, and I'm talking about the tractors again because everybody's talking about Africa being the bread basket or the future bread basket for the world. We're seeing strong growth figures coming out of India at the moment, out of China, out of Africa. Is this where your focus is going to be going forward because of the growth that we are seeing coming out of these continents?
Sure, you're right. Besides India and China, Africa is the most important region where I suppose the volumes are going to really grow.
And of course, you are in 23 countries across Africa. What sort of growth are you seeing there compared to South Africa?
There also we are seeing 10+% growth in most African markets.
And your future plans for South Africa, more models coming in?
Yes, we are planning a new SUV which should be launched in the next 12 months. Altogether new platform.
And future prospects in South Africa, good?
Very good.